Soon you'll be able to tell your kids about how the United States dollar was once the strongest currency in the world, and you were there to watch it all fall into ruin in the spring of 2023.
Are warning the collapse of another American bank could lead to a credit crunch and an economic slowdown.
As banks collapsed all around you, and how you had to pull your money out of your local banks and put it into gold and silver and real estate just to protect your family. You don't think this was all planned? What a clown world we are living in. This weekend, gold hit a brand new record high as people freak out about government currencies, which are, of course, tanking. And this week, we entered the most dangerous period yet, with economists saying this could be worse than the Great Depression or the financial crisis of 2008.
Inflation is going to get worse, and so is the current financial crisis. And nobody wants to admit we're in a financial crisis. It is worse than the one we had in 2008. It's just getting started.
You'll also be able to tell your kids that you were there when they took away the paper dollar and coins in favor of a U.S. digital currency. And you'd be correct, because 50 days from now, the United States dollar changes forever. That's right, in July. And just 3 weeks ago, the U.S. Federal Reserve started the process, the rollout of this new central bank digital U.S. dollar. The full rollout happens in July. This is not hyperbole. Your freedom to use cash the way you want to is going to change forever, just like what Europe did a few weeks ago, making it illegal to spend cash over $1,000 or 1,000 euros. Can you imagine? Think that's fake news? Here's the head of the European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde, explaining it.
No, the problem is they don't want to be controlled. They don't want to...
Yeah, but you know what? Now we have in Europe this threshold. Above 1,000 euros, you cannot pay cash. If you do, you are on the gray market. You take your risk. You get caught, you are fined, or you go in jail.
So no biggie. You can't spend your own money without the government tracking you, and you can go to jail for it. In the United States, it's called the FedNow program, and it'll replace paper currency, which this week became even more worthless. It'll move the United States to a cashless society, a total surveillance state where every transaction will be tracked. Where, as the Fed describes it, money that's in your account could even expire and become unusable.
The California Reparations Task Force voted today in Oakland to approve recommendations for a final proposal to be delivered to state lawmakers this summer. That task force has studied and researched the negative impacts of slavery on its descendants for more than 2 years. The panel's proposal contains restitution estimates to African Americans living in the state that have experienced housing discrimination, racial injustice, and more. African Americans living in California with an ancestor or ancestors tied to slavery could receive cash payments. Panelists say the time is now. Now, according to the report, an African American resident over the age of 70 could receive payments of up to $1.2 million. That final report will contain 95 recommendations for determining what reparations will look like in the future. State legislators must pass all or some of the recommendations to pass the proposal into law come July.
Is it possible to defy mortality? The fact that we are going to die one day. The fact that our life comes with an expiry date only makes us human. But what if there was a way to defy death? What if what worked for Captain America could work for us in real life? This method is called cryogenic preservation. What exactly does it mean? What does it have to do with PayPal co-founder Peter Thiel? Cryogenic freezing is a process which is performed on dead humans. For this process to be performed, an individual needs to sign up for it in advance. It is a type of low-temperature freezing carried out by a medical team that stores the organic remains of the body using ice water. The dead body is then oxygenated using masks and is put on a machine similar to a heart-lung bypass. This is done to circulate blood and maintain oxygen. A solution is pumped into the dead body, which essentially works like an antifreeze. This is done to stop body tissues from turning into ice crystals, so that there is minimum structural damage. The body is then placed in a liquid nitrogen chamber at a temperature as low as -320 degrees Fahrenheit. Once it is cold enough, the body is transferred to a thermos-like tank. filled with liquid nitrogen, where it'll stay for the foreseeable future. What happens next? These bodies wait in these tanks until medical technology is able to revive them. Among those who have signed up for this process is billionaire Peter Thiel, the co-founder of PayPal. Thiel has agreed to be cryogenically preserved when he dies. When asked about the same, he responded saying, "Yes, but I think of it more as an ideological statement. I don't necessarily expect it to work, but I think it's the sort of thing we're supposed to try to do."
We're going to talk about 3-parent babies. You heard that right. Not 1, not 2, but 3-parent babies. Here's how. Babies, like all organisms, are made of DNA, and the DNA of children comes from their parents. So, with 3-parent babies, the process is the same. Except instead of 2, 3 parents give their DNA. The father who gives the sperm, the mother who gives the egg, and a female donor. So what does this female donor give? Her DNA. Then a baby will be born like in any IVF birth. That's in vitro fertilization, where the embryo forms outside the womb in a lab dish, and then is placed inside the womb of the mother. And this process is called mitochondrial donation treatment, which is exactly what's happened in the UK. For the first time in history, a 3-parent baby has been born. But this isn't the first such case in the world. In 2016, a 3-parent baby was born in Mexico. In 2017, another was born to parents in Ukraine. And in 2019, a similar case was seen in Greece.